And yeah, in limited, you're going to have 4 drops and 5 drops probably, and they're all going to become bigger and scarier. So I think that's great. I think I'm not sure he's a high pick, but he's a definite play in the white deck in limited. I wouldn't pick him above any removal or bombs or anything, but he's definitely a playable guy. Let's see. Radiant Armor is our next card on the list. It is a 3 mana, 1 white threshold quick action, so it's an instant. But I'll never play it. Its target troop you control gets permanent +0/+1 for each diamond you have. I don't like this card. I realize they get permanent toughness, but who cares about permanent toughness? I mean, this is constructed we're talking about, for the most part anyway. And that's pretty bad. Even in mono white, you play it on turn 5, a guy gets +0/+5? Really? Like, do we care about +0/+5? Like, is that a thing that we care about at all? That's not killing him any faster.
Yeah, this card looks pretty terrible. Limited and constructed, toughness is not what you want. It costs 3, which is quite a bit, and you're going to have a hard time getting value out of this card.
I'm not sure it's possible to get value out of this card. You can, at most, I guess you can trade their guy for, if you were going to trade, instead you save your guy with Radiant Armor.
Yeah, you save your guy with Radiant Armor, he ends up with higher health, but you spent 3 mana to do that.
And then you're still only getting a 1-for-1.
Yeah, I don't know, not very good.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It could be potentially useful if there's a card that ends up being able to switch its power and toughness, but that's really, really situational.
No, that's not good. That's like a janky 2-card combo to make like a 6/2.
Right. Yeah, where you could just be playing 2 aggressive creatures instead.
Yeah.
The next card is Repel. It's a 4-cost quick action, single white threshold. Destroy target attacking or blocking troop. There are a couple magic cards just like this. There's Neck Snap, and then I think there's another one like an M12 or M13. It's decent in limited. It's going to kill a creature, which is really good, although it costs a lot, so it's not as good as other removal spells. It's still nice in that it can kill big, huge flyers or bombs or whatever. In constructed, it's going to be competing with more efficient spells like Inner Conflict or Murder. So I don't think it's going to see constructed play. But in limited, it's going to be pretty solid. Nothing special.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is a limited, reasonable removal card. I'd probably pick it, I don't know, some not super early, but reasonably early, I guess. It is removal, though it's expensive and can't target things that's not attacking or blocking, so you can't kill their utility guys. In constructed, this is unplayable. Don't even consider it. It's terrible. You're never going to play it. There's a million better spells. Just move on. Moving on to Righteous Paladin. So this is the combo with the guy way earlier on, Adamanthian Scrivener. Righteous Paladin says it's a 2/2 for 2 with a 2 white threshold. So he's very white and aggressive. It says when you gain health, this troop gets a permanent +1/+1. So that's pretty sweet. Whenever you gain life, he gets bigger. And there's lots of ways to gain life, especially with Adamanthian Scrivener, which in fact will make him come into play as a 3/3. That's great, and I think that if there was a life gain, if there was another card like Adamanthian Scrivener, this guy would be played in that deck, and it would be great. With only 1, I'm not sure there's enough good, playable life gain to make Righteous Paladin super great, but he is still a 2/2 for 2, which is okay, and if you have any instant life gain, he gets pretty good. I'd have to look at the whole white weenie deck to see if this guy is playable and constructed, but the ability is nice, his cost and power and everything is on par, so I would accept that he is reasonable. Indeed, in the chat, they said that charge power is useful. Yeah, it's still 2 charges, it only happens once every couple of turns, and it does cost some mana to do that. Still, I think that he is playable with a little bit more help than he has right now. And in limited, if you have any life gain at all, at least he's a Grizzly Bear, he's playable.
I'm curious. I'm not sure if you guys know the answer to this, but if you were to play Princess Victoria so that everyone gets life drain, would each creature that punches give him +1/+1, or is it all in one swoop?
I think it would trigger for each creature dealing damage.
Yeah, every creature that deals damage individually, because it's each a different source of life gain.
Okay.
Which is cool, and that's cool with Princess Victoria, but again, that requires the Princess Victoria in your aggressive deck.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I have pretty similar thoughts. In limited, like a 2-2 for 2 is usually pretty good. His double threshold is kind of a turnoff there. Like you're going to have to be either mono white or close to it to reliably cast him on turn 2. But in constructed, I think he has a good chance of seeing play. Like we saw on the Hex main site, they streamed a game with this guy, and he actually did pretty well with the champion that has the charge power that gives him lifelink. It doesn't actually cost mana; it's only charges to use your champion power. So,
Oh wow. Okay.
I think he's decent. Like with Adamanthian Scrivener and the life gain charge power, I think he has a good chance of being better than a 2-2 in the deck that he's in. There's not a whole lot of good cheap white creatures, so I think he's definitely going to be in the white weenie deck. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's decent. Next card is Rose Lion. This card is 2 mana, 1 white threshold for a 0/1. At the start of your turn, this troop gets permanent +1/+1. When this troop attacks or blocks, it permanently loses this ability. So on turn 2, you're going to cast a 0/1, which is not exciting. And you're going to wait around for a couple turns. Maybe eventually you'll have a 3/4 better. So we're talking like on turn 4, he'll be a 2/3 that you spent 2 mana on a couple turns ago. Constructed and limited, I really don't think this card is any good at all. It's just you have to wait too long for him to be any good at all, and even then he's just going to be a blank creature. Too much conditionality on a cheap creature.
I definitely agree. You can't even do cool, tricky stuff like grow him and then block with him and kill him and like have him die and then get him back and start growing him some more, because it loses the ability permanently to keep growing. I think that's really lame. I would really like it more if it grew permanently, and then if you could put it back into play, it can continue growing from that point. I think that would be still not good, but at least something. As it is, though, like, yeah, to make this guy a reasonable size, it's going to be turn 5, turn 6. Like, that's, and even then, it's not that good. I don't like it. Moving on to Shield Trainer. This is another aggressive 1-drop, or aggressive 2-drop in the white weenie deck. It is a 2 casting cost 2/2, again, where you want to be, with 1 white threshold. It has Steadfast, so it does not tap to attack, and it has Inspire. Your other creatures that cost the same or more also gain Steadfast. That's pretty cool. Steadfast isn't a great ability for white weenie, but it's an ability. It's better than no ability at all, and as a 2/2 for 2, his stats are acceptable.
Yeah, I'd be happy to play this in draft. 2/2 for 2 with a 1 threshold. It's a fine card in draft. Like, the Steadfast might matter. Inspiring your guys for giving them Steadfast. It's not going to be the biggest deal in the world, but it's something. So, I mean, you'd probably go in the Inspire deck, or maybe not. I don't know. It's not great.
I think if he goes in the Inspire deck, if only because he's just an aggressive guy with an ability. But in Limited especially, I think that, like, you're going to play 4-drops, 5-drops. I bet at some point you're going to play a guy who'd be very cool if he had Steadfast.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, in Limited, he's definitely solid.
Because you're going to play larger guys, like, and it matters. You're not just going to be fighting every time like you are in Constructed. In Limited, it's much more about, like, getting the right creature to attack with. Especially if you get, like, a big flyer that has Steadfast, which a couple of which exist in this set, then you're good to go. He can attack, he can block, you're good.
Yeah. All right, next card. Soothing Breeze. 2 cost, instant, 1 white threshold, gain 7 health. Man, this card is so exciting. No, actually, it's pretty terrible. In Limited, it's probably going to be completely unplayable. I could see it in Constructed as like a sideboard against the mono red deck if the mono red deck is like a big force in the metagame. That's pretty much its only home is against the burn deck. And even then, you have Eternal Youth as like a possible alternative. Not exciting.
Yeah, I agree. This card is basically strictly worse. The only time Eternal Youth is worse than this is if you have to gain 7 life instead of 5 right now. Like, other than that, Eternal Youth is just tremendously better. You even gain more life by the second cast. So if you cast 2 of them, Eternal Youth is better than Soothing Breeze. It's only on the first one. So if it has to be that 2 life, that's going to be it. And I would not play this over Eternal Youth. I just feel like 5 life's probably good enough. And then if you cast it a second time, like, that's just way better.
Yeah.
Okay, now moving on to a card that I absolutely hate. We have Soul Marble. Okay, so Soul Marble is a 1 casting cost enchantment. A constant, or 1 white, and here's what it says. It has pay 1, add a sculpture counter. If it has 10 or more sculpture counters, choose 1. It transforms into Soul Cavalry, or it transforms into Soul Armaments. Let's go over those 2 cards. Soul Cavalry is a 5/5 steadfast spell shield, so it cannot be targeted by spells or abilities that opponents control.
Is that the case, or is it both players?
I'm fairly sure Spell Shield is just hexproof. I'm about 99% sure. I suppose I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Okay, so at that point you have paid 11 mana over the course of how many turns to get a pretty cool guy. He's a good guy, but you've paid a lot of mana for him. Soul Armaments, on the other hand, is a sweet enchantment. It says troops you control gain +2/+2, and Steadfast and Spell Shield. Okay, now that's a pretty cool enchantment, and if I could just play that card, I would. But having to play it for 11 mana, like, your aggressive deck is going to have to spend, turns 3 and 4 and 5 to get your Soul Armaments. Well, I guess you can play something else. You can play this in a 2-drop on turn 3. No, you can't. All 3, turn 4, and turn 5 Soul Armaments, that is god-awful. That's just the worst.
Yeah.
Or you spend 3 turns to get a 5/5, and then they kill you with input spells for 3 turns. Like, it's just the worst. I don't like it.
Yeah, the mana investment is just way too high for something like this. Soul Armaments is definitely an appealing card, but Soul Armaments wants you to have a bunch of small creatures that are cheap, and then Soul Marble wants you to spend a whole lot of mana on it. So, you're probably not going to have a lot of mana to have those creatures out. They're both cool, Soul Armaments and the Cavalry, but just the huge mana investment makes me not like this card for limited. Well, I suppose it's a little better in limited, but you're still spending a ton of mana, so not really crazy about this card.
Yeah, I think in limited, maybe it's like the worst top deck in the game for sure. It literally does nothing. But I guess if you play it on turn 5 or something, assuming the board is stable, then you're going to win, because you're just going to spend some mana whenever you have it, and then you'll get a pretty cool enchantment. I think that's good, but in Constructed, it's completely unplayable. In Limited, I don't know, maybe it turns into a guy or an enchantment, so it's basically a really expensive overrun, which is playable.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
All right, last card we have here is Trial of Faith. It's a 5-cost, double white threshold constant. It says, when this constant enters play, void all other cards you control and all cards in your hand. At the start of your turn, add a faith counter to this constant. Then, if it has 3 or more faith counters, remove all faith counters from it and sacrifice it. If you do, transform each card voided with this constant into an angel and put it into play. And angels are 5/5 troops with flight that cost 5. So the angels are pretty sweet, but this card asks you to spend 5 mana and then live for 3 turns with nothing in play and nothing in your hand except for what you draw off the top of your deck. You do get to keep your resources. They're not like lands and Magic. They're not cards anymore, so it doesn't kill all your lands, but you're still going to be in top deck mode for 3 turns to come back with a bunch of angels. This card it's asking a whole lot for a payoff 3 turns down the road. Just doesn't seem worth it to me in Limited or Constructed. Huge trap.
Yeah, I agree. The only time I could even think of playing this is if, it's turn 30 in your blue-white control deck, and you've taken firm control of the game, and you're at, 1,000,000 life because you've played Eternal Youth over and over again, and then you play Trial of Faith because they totally can't kill you. But at that point, I think you could have played a much better win condition, like anything.
Like a Rose Lion.
Like a Rose Lion that's sat around since turn 2 and is now a 50-50. That's way better. Yeah, this card is limited, especially. Oh my god, holy crap! This is just the worst thing ever. But even in